Hello, people. Finished a book. Actually, I finished this about 30 years ago. Finished it again about 10 years ago, and I just finished it today for the third time. Uh, the book was written in 1990. It's called My Traitor's Heart. It's about South Africa, and I went through a period where I read a lot about South Africa. I think that I think when I was a kid, I saw the movie Zulu Dawn, or maybe I saw the movie about Rorke's Drift, and the cat is after something over there, and it really, caught my interest, and so I went through everything I could find about the Zulu War, the Zulu versus the British, and of course that led me to the Boer War, and I've got a book up there called Frontiers, and it's like a 1,200 page, all about really the British versus, the various native tribes as the white people kind of moved north from Cape Town and kept kicking them out of the areas that they had given to them, and it's a terrible, it's a great book, but just terrible episode in human history. So this is history, yeah, and especially since it was published in 1990, it's technically every page of it is history, but it's also a book about the human condition. And I think maybe I've mentioned once before that I had a gentleman ask me once before, why are you reading so much? He says, why are you reading so fast? You can't, you're reading too fast. You're not going to be able to remember what you're reading. And it's true. I probably have, maybe 65% of what I read, I actually commit to memory. Maybe even less, I don't know. But I told him that I want to figure out why things are as fucked up as they are. And the only way to do that is to read about history. And when you read books like this, and you read books like Frontiers, and you live in this country, you have to come to the realization that part of the human condition is not trusting people that aren't like you, and I think we all have it to a greater or lesser degree. And this author here, Rian Malan, he struggles with that through the whole book. And Malan is an old Afrikaner, an old Boer name. He's his people have been there for 300 years. Let me get to my notes here. I think every time I read this book, I get something different from it. 425 pages. I started reading this last Wednesday evening, and here it is Saturday evening, so I was reading 100 pages a day. It was published in 1990, and that was also the year that Nelson Mandela was released from prison, and he does talk about that, but at the very end he talks about that. And I've got here the last paragraph, page 77 to page 78, and I have the incident that he's talking about here was in 1976. But I've got written there, sound familiar? Harry was black, but at that moment his face was gray, and his white shirt was spattered with blood. He'd been in Soweto covering a march. High school pupils had taken to the streets with placards denouncing the Afrikaans language decree. A few stones were thrown, and the police opened fire, killing 2 young boys and wounding untold others. Harry loaded some of the injured in a staff car and rushed them to Baragwanath Hospital, which lay on the outskirts of the township. When he looked back, Soweto was already exploding. The schools and government installations were destroyed first, then the mob turned on anything associated with the white economic structure, burning trucks, delivery vans, shops, and banks. The tinder had been accumulating for generations, and once it caught, the conflagration was unstoppable. So I wrote Soweto is a black township. For a long time, apartheid was their motto was separate but equal. So the blacks got crammed into these ghettos. And I have written here sound familiar because we just lived through the summer of burning cities and the blacks in this country having enough, and it's the same thing. The tinder had been accumulating for generations, and that's exactly what's going on here. And yes, I understand that white people get killed by the police too, but I don't know. It's the thing about this particular human condition is there doesn't seem to be an easy answer to any of it. And I don't know if this author ever gets the answer throughout the whole book. It'd be interesting to find out what he's doing now. Second paragraph, page 90. And I don't have much other reading to do here. I thought a lot about the riots of June 76 and about Dr. Melville Edelstein, the only white civilian to die in them. Edelstein was a sociologist, a liberal, who had recently published a book entitled What Young Africans Think. It was deeply sympathetic to the black point of view and uncannily prescient. Edelstein warned that black youths were angry and that a storm was building inside them. He foresaw many things clearly, but not the way in which the storm would consume him. On the morning of June 16th, he was doing research at a clinic in Soweto. When rioting broke out, police advised all whites to leave. But Edelstein and another man stayed. Edelstein was not scared. He knew which side he was on. When the mob came, he walked out to greet it, and they stomped him to death. He was white. So, I have written after that, the guy who hit the kid and turned around and came back. If you don't live in the Detroit area, you might not know what I'm talking about, but there was a guy driving a pickup truck, a white guy, and as he's driving down, I think it was Greenfield, because I remember the story, and I remember thinking, Jesus, I drive down Greenfield every day. I try to take a shortcut there. And there's a big crowd of people, black people, that are standing next to the road, standing very close to the road. And sometimes when people can't see, they'll step into the road. And a young black kid stepped into the road, and this white driver hit him. And, didn't even have a chance to slow down. So the guy knew he hit him, up the road. He turned around and he came back to see if he was all right. And the crowd jumped on him and started stomping him to death. To everyone's credit that was there, several of the men, yelled and screamed for the crowd to stop. What are you doing? Stop. And the crowd did stop. The guy was not killed, but the guy will never be the same. He's got brain damage. So, again, I'm sure that guy being white had something to do with that. What the crowd did was not right. And had this have happened in South Africa, some of the Afrikaners would have picked up their guns and gone out that night and just shot indiscriminately. And actually, some of that is going on here too. We've all heard that Black Lives Matter protests. There's people taking pot shots, and people are being killed indiscriminately. Okay, so I'm thinking as I'm reading this that one of the things that helped bring down the apartheid system was economic sanctions. In the United States, we had economic sanctions against South Africa, against the white government of South Africa. I wonder how that would play now. I wonder if we would even consider that. We don't have economic sanctions against Israel, and they have an apartheid government there. They're constantly, killing Palestinian youths and old men and bulldozing their settlements and taking them over. And we get a lot of propaganda here about all the Palestinians. They fired rockets into Israel, and but if you look at the statistics, thousands of Palestinians are killed every year, and only 10 Israelis. And I also had written down here that there's right-wing pundits on YouTube. Some of them attractive young blonde women, doing 20-minute long videos about some Boer farmer that gets killed in the middle of the night in South Africa. I'm not going to sit here and say that that's right, but that's what's going to happen when that Boer farmer is sitting on a 1,000-acre farm, and there's thousands and thousands of unemployed black people that, a couple of them might be lucky enough to work on that farm, but the rest of them are fucking starving to death. We already talked about the frontiers. In the bottom of page 369. This is something that's completely unrelated to the book. Here he's going on about this cooperative that this white couple had started in the middle of an area with some Zulus. If a boulder lay in the path of one of his furrows, Zulu women built a bonfire under it, heated it until it glowed, then doused it with pails of water. Viola, the rock shattered. Zulu dynamite, they called it. And when I read that, I instantly thought of the wineskins. And when I was like a little 12-year-old kid reading about Hannibal taking his elephants through the Alps, there's a section of that story where their trail, and Hannibal and his men are not doing well at this time. They're starving, they're freezing. section of the trail is blocked by an enormous boulder, and they build a fire and they heat it up, and they throw wineskins on it to crack up the boulder. And when I was a kid, I could not understand that. I thought these guys are pouring wine on their skins and flinging themselves on the boulder. But no, that's not what they're doing. That's it. That's all my notes. This is a wonderful book. If you ever see it anywhere, definitely pick it up. Thanks for watching.